She's not confused. She's testing you every look, every pause, every word. You've been there. She asks an innocent-sounding question, smiles in a way that feels deliberate, or suddenly grows quiet for no reason. Maybe she chats with another man just within your sight, or leans in close, then pulls away like it's nothing. You tell yourself not to overthink it, but deep down you feel it. These aren't accidents. And here's the hard truth. She's reading you. Every micro-reaction you give, every shift in your tone, every flicker in your eyes tells her whether you're the kind of man who leads or follows. Most men fail these moments because they don't even realize the test is happening. They talk too much, they chase too hard, they break frame without even knowing it. But when you understand what she's doing and why, you stop playing defense, you stay centered, you hold your ground without forcing it. And suddenly, she's the one leaning in, wondering how to get closer to you. In this video, I'll break down the exact scenarios women use to measure your power and show you the responses that flip the dynamic in your favor. You'll learn how to keep the mystery, hold the frame, and make her feel your presence without saying a word. These aren't tricks. They're timeless skills every man should own. Let's get into it. Scenario 1, the job question trap. You're at a dinner, maybe a friend's birthday or a casual get-together. You're relaxed, drink in hand, talking with a few people when she turns to you with that smile that feels just a little too deliberate. Then she drops it. So, what exactly do you do? Most guys hear that and think, easy, she's curious, time to impress. So they sit up straighter, lean in, and start giving their resume. They talk about their job title, their responsibilities, their past promotions, like they're at an interview. Without realizing it, they've just walked into her frame. That question isn't random. For a lot of women, especially ones who are used to attention, it's a quiet test. She's not asking about your income so she can update her spreadsheet. She's watching how you define yourself. Does your sense of worth come from a business card, or does it come from something deeper? Mark is 48, runs a small but successful contracting business in Austin. At a neighborhood barbecue, he meets Lisa, 44, a friend of a friend. They're talking about the weather, kids, travel, when she tilts her head and asks, "So what do you do?" Mark smiles, takes a slow sip of his beer, and says, "I do what I want. Right now, it's building things I actually care about." Then he turns it back to her. "What about you? What's keeping you busy these days?" Notice what he didn't do. He didn't rattle off numbers, he didn't pitch himself like a candidate, and he didn't change his posture like he'd just been called into the principal's office. He stayed in his frame. That one sentence told her more than a 10-minute monologue could, that he's self-directed, that his value isn't up for her approval, and that he's not desperate to fill silence with credentials. Now, imagine the opposite. Steve, 52, meets the same woman in the same situation. She asks the question, and he launches into, "Well, I've been with the company for 27 years, started as a junior manager, then got promoted in 2005. Within 30 seconds, the dynamic shifts. It's no longer two equals talking. She's the interviewer, he's the candidate, and he's hoping she'll stamp approved on his life. The difference is subtle but huge. When you answer in a way that signals you need her to validate you, you've lost the frame. You've told her, without meaning to, that your sense of worth is negotiable. This is why Stoic thinking is so powerful here. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." When your identity doesn't hinge on impressing someone, you can answer lightly, even playfully. You can keep the focus on living by your own compass instead of selling your achievements. It's not about being evasive. If she genuinely wants to know more, she'll ask. And if she's genuinely interested in you, she'll feel the pull of that mystery. That's when she leans in a little closer, starts asking questions you didn't volunteer to answer, because she can sense you're not performing for her approval. So the next time you hear, "So, what exactly do you do?" Take a breath. Let the question hang for a second. Give an answer that reflects your self-direction, not your job description. Then turn it back to her. Ask something open enough to make her share, and you'll see the test turn into a real conversation. Because here's the truth. She's not confused. She knows exactly what she's doing. And if you pass this quiet little test, you're telling her something she won't forget. You're the kind of man who commands without demanding. If you've ever felt this subtle test, drop this in the comments. I hold my frame. And here's the thing, the moment she sees you pass this test, something shifts in her approach. She'll move to another one you might not even notice until it's already happening. Scenario 2. The jealousy test. You're standing there, mid-conversation, when she excuses herself to greet another man. Maybe it's a co-worker, a friend, or just someone she happened to run into. She smiles at him, leans in slightly, says a few words you can't hear. And then she glances back at you. That glance isn't random, it's a temperature check. She's watching your face, your posture, your micro-reactions. Will you stiffen up? Will you pretend you're fine while your jaw tightens? Will you try to reclaim her attention the second she comes back? Here's the thing most men miss. This isn't about the other guy. He's just the prop. The real test is about your stability. Can you hold your ground when her attention shifts? Can you stay in your own world without clinging? Many men fail this test instantly. They tense up. They make a joke that's actually a complaint. They start watching the interaction too closely, like a guard dog on a short leash. In her mind, that shows fragility. It says, "My emotional balance depends on being the center of your attention." That's not attractive. It's possession disguised as passion. The Stoics had a simple truth for moments like this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Her talking to another man is an outside event. Your reaction is yours to control. When you pass this test, you don't need to announce it. You don't glare at the other guy. You don't rush over to interrupt. You simply stay present where you are, engage with whoever you're talking to, and let the moment pass like a cloud drifting overhead. It shows that your value doesn't spike or crash based on her spotlight. And here's the paradox: when you don't chase, she notices. When you're still warm, still relaxed, still in your own rhythm, when she returns, it tells her something rare. It says you're secure enough not to compete for her attention every second. That kind of calm presence creates a deeper pull than any display of jealousy could. Stoicism isn't about being cold or pretending not to care. It's about being unshaken. Epictetus reminded us, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is one of those times. If you react with calm confidence, you show her a side of you that is both powerful and safe. Of course, there's a temptation to play it cool while secretly burning up inside, but she'll sense that. True composure isn't faked, it's practiced. It comes from knowing you can enjoy her company without needing to control her every move. It's a trust in yourself first, and then in her. Passing the jealousy test isn't about ignoring her or punishing her with distance. It's about living in a state where her temporary shift in attention doesn't rock your center. That's when she feels the paradox of attraction. You don't need to hold her tightly, and that's exactly why she wants to stay closer. So next time she gives you this test, let the moment happen. Stay grounded. Keep your energy steady. And when she comes back, let her see the same man she left, the one who's centered, present, and untouched by the noise around him. If you've ever stayed cool when tested, drop this in the comments. I stay unshaken. There's another test that's even more subtle, and you won't see it coming. It doesn't happen in public, and it's not about who else is in the room. It's about the space between you and how much of it you choose to reveal. Scenario 3. The mystery probe. It's a quiet moment. The two of you are sitting together, maybe after dinner or during a long drive. The conversation drifts, and then she looks at you, tilts her head, and says, I can't quite figure you out. Most men hear that and think it's a compliment. They feel flattered and rush to fill the silence. They start explaining their childhood, their career, their past relationships, anything to help her understand them. What they don't realize is that they've just stepped into another test. This is the mystery probe. She's not confused. She's taking a gentle push at the boundary of what you reveal. She's checking to see if your life, your thoughts, and your emotions are on full display for anyone who asks, or if you carry yourself with a level of controlled privacy. Let's make this real. David is 46, a financial advisor in Denver. He's been seeing Rachel, 43, for a few weeks. One night, after a casual dinner, they're sitting in his living room, music playing softly. Out of nowhere, she says, "You're hard to read. I can't tell what's going on in your head." David doesn't rush in with explanations. He smiles, holds her gaze for a second, and says, "Good." Then he leans back, takes a sip of his drink, and shifts the focus. "So tell me, what was your favorite trip you've ever taken?" That's it. No walls of text, no emotional dump, no defensive, "Let me tell you who I am." He stays in control of what he shares and when. And here's the important part. He's not cold, he's not evasive. He's simply choosing not to collapse his mystery just because she asked. Now imagine the opposite. Same setup, same question, but the guy takes the bait. He launches into his personal history like he's been waiting for the moment to finally be understood. He reveals every detail, every emotional scar, every internal thought. What happens? The mystery is gone. She's no longer leaning in, she's leaning back, because there's nothing left to discover. The Stoics understood this long before dating advice was a thing. Seneca wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." But he also lived with an awareness that not everything should be laid bare to everyone. Controlled disclosure builds respect and attraction. You don't need to make everything a secret. This isn't about playing games, it's about pacing. Letting her earn access to deeper parts of you over time keeps the connection alive. It also shows that you value your own inner world enough to protect it. When you pass the mystery probe, you're telling her that you're not a book that opens on the first page to anyone who flips it. You're telling her that you have depth, that you can engage her without giving her the whole map in the first hour. That tension between what she knows and what she doesn't is magnetic. So when she says, "I can't quite figure you out," don't rush to fix it. Smile. Let the words hang. Redirect gently. Ask something about her life, her passions, her stories. She'll leave the moment feeling like there's more to discover and that she wants to be the one to uncover it. If you've ever held your mystery instead of spilling it, drop this in the comments. I keep my depth. And here's the thing, once she senses that you won't give everything away, she'll shift to a different angle. The next test isn't about you revealing yourself. It's about what you do when the spotlight moves completely off you. Scenario 4. The spotlight shift. You're at a party, a work event, or maybe just a group dinner. The attention has been on you for a while, your story, your jokes, your energy. Then, as if on cue, the spotlight moves. Someone else takes center stage. A louder voice, a bigger personality, or maybe just a shift in the conversation. In that moment, she glances at you. Not in a way that everyone would notice, just a quick, almost invisible look. She's not checking if you're still having fun. She's reading you. Do you shrink? Do you go quiet? Do you start competing to pull the focus back? This is the spotlight shift, and it's one of the most revealing tests you'll face, because it's not about what you do when you're the center of attention, it's about what you do when you're not. Most men fail this test without realizing it. They feel the drop in attention like a loss in status. They start talking louder, cutting in, or trying to outshine the new focus in the room. On the surface, it looks like confidence, but underneath, it's a subtle form of insecurity, the need to be seen at all times, to feel important. The The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." In a social setting, craving more attention is the poverty of presence. If your sense of worth rises and falls with the spotlight, you've already given away your power. Passing this test means being able to stay grounded, engaged, and at ease, even when you're not in the center. It's about being part of the flow rather than trying to control it. You can laugh at someone else's story. You can enjoy the moment without needing to direct it. That kind of ease signals a deeper confidence than any loud interruption ever could. And here's the paradox: when you don't chase the spotlight, it tends to find its way back to you naturally. People notice the one who's relaxed, who doesn't compete, who holds himself with quiet assurance. That calm draws curiosity, and curiosity pulls the light back without you having to move a muscle. It's not about fading into the background or pretending you don't care. It's about having a presence that isn't dependent on constant validation. The man who can hold his space when the attention moves away is the man who can hold his space anywhere. The next time you feel the spotlight shift, catch yourself before you react. Let the moment pass. Enjoy it. Show her and everyone else that your value doesn't spike only when you're in the center. The true test of presence isn't how brightly you shine when all eyes are on you. It's how solid you stand when they're not. If you've ever stayed calm when the attention moved on, drop this in the comments. I hold my ground. And here's what's coming. Once she knows you can handle the spotlight shifting away, she'll want to know if you can handle something even more direct. Not a crowd, not another person, but a challenge aimed straight at the beliefs you live by. Scenario 5. The belief challenge. It usually comes out of nowhere. You're having a good conversation, maybe about travel, work, or some random topic, when she suddenly takes aim at something you believe. It could be politics, your views on relationships, how you handle money, or even the way you spend your weekends. She doesn't just disagree, she challenges you, directly, with a little spark in her eyes like she's watching for your reaction. For most men, this feels like an attack. The instinct is to either get defensive, rattling off reasons why they're right, or to backpedal, softening their stance so she won't think they're too rigid. But here's the thing, neither reaction earns respect. The belief challenge is rarely about the belief itself. It's about seeing if you'll stand in your own skin when someone pushes against you. Let's make this real. Michael is 51, runs a small architectural firm in Portland. He's been dating Claire, 48, for a few months. One evening over dinner, the topic turns to lifestyle. Michael mentions that he values early mornings and disciplined routines. Claire leans back, smirks, and says, "You know, that sounds boring. Don't you think life's too short to be so structured?" Michael doesn't flinch. He smiles, takes a sip of his wine, and says, "Maybe for some people. But I've learned that structure gives me freedom. It's what lets me enjoy the parts of life that matter most." Then he shifts the focus, asking her, "What's your version of a day well spent?" That's it. No lecturing, no defensive edge, no scrambling to make her agree. He states his belief clearly, calmly, and without apology, then opens the floor for her to share hers. This is how you hold the frame without turning the moment into a power struggle. Now imagine the opposite. Same question, same smirk, but the guy starts explaining himself away. "Well, maybe I am too strict. Maybe I should loosen up more." He thinks he's being agreeable, but what she sees is someone who changes his values based on who he's talking to. That's not flexibility, that's instability. The Stoics understood the importance of holding firm without hostility. Epictetus said, "Stand ready to accept without arrogance, and to let go without reluctance." That means having the strength to live by your principles while respecting others, and knowing when a disagreement isn't a threat to your identity. The belief challenge is a test of that exact balance. Can you express your truth without forcing it? Can you hear hers without feeling like you need to surrender yours? A man who can do both is a rare find, and in her mind, rare equals valuable. One reason this test is so powerful is because it hits at the core of masculine presence, the ability to lead yourself. If your views collapse the moment they're questioned, it signals that you rely on external validation to decide who you are. On the other hand, if you respond with arrogance or aggression, it shows insecurity hiding under a layer of bravado. True strength lives in the middle ground, firm, steady, unshaken. And here's a subtle truth. She's not just testing if you can hold your beliefs now, she's wondering what it will be like in the future. Will you bend when life gets tough? Will you lose your center when things don't go your way? The way you handle a simple disagreement over dinner is a preview of how you'll handle the storms. So the next time she challenges what you believe, breathe, let her words land, then respond from that place in you that doesn't need permission to exist. Stand in your truth and show her that agreement isn't required for connection. That's the kind of man she remembers and respects. If you've ever held your ground under pressure, drop this in the comments. I stand firm. And once she sees you won't bend on your core values, she might change her strategy. The next move won't be about your words at all. It'll be about how you handle the weight of nothingness when silence takes over. Scenario 6. The silence game. It's not the long pauses in a job interview or the awkward quiet moments with strangers that get you. It's when you're with her, maybe after a good conversation, and suddenly she goes quiet. No reason, no warning. She just withdraws into herself, checks her phone, sips her drink, and leaves you with an empty space to fill. This is the silence game. It's not always deliberate, sometimes it's a natural rhythm, but often it's intentional. It's a test to see what you do when the energy drops. Do you scramble to fill the gap with nervous chatter? Do you start probing with, is something wrong? Or do you sit in that space, unbothered, like silence is just another part of the conversation? Most men fail this test without realizing it. They can't handle the stillness. They rush in, talking too much, making jokes, or asking a string of questions just to get her to engage. They're trying to bring back the feeling of connection by force, but all it does is show that they can't sit still without constant feedback. The Stoics had a very different approach to moments like this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That means if you're comfortable within yourself, you don't need constant noise or validation to feel at ease. You can let the silence exist without it becoming an enemy. Passing the silence game is about presence. It's about showing her that you don't panic when the talking stops, that you can sit in the moment without needing to fill it. It tells her you're grounded enough to let things breathe, and that you don't see every pause as a problem to solve. When you can do this, the silence shifts. Instead of feeling like a wall between you, it becomes a shared space. The tension melts into something else, comfort, intimacy, and a sense of being with someone who's not afraid of the quiet. The men who fail, they turn the silence into a confession booth. They spill stories they weren't ready to share. They overcompensate, turning casual quiet into a desperate performance. And just like that, the frame shifts. She's the one in control, and he's the one reacting. There's also another layer here. Sometimes, the silence is her way of seeing if you'll chase her emotionally. If she senses you can't handle her pulling back, she'll know exactly how to control you later. But if you let her have her space without losing your center, you flip the dynamic. You're showing her that you choose your reactions, not her moods. It's not about ignoring her or shutting down. You can still be warm, still make eye contact, still smile. But you let the quiet be part of the rhythm. You show her you're not afraid to slow things down. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." In the context of the silence game, wasting time means filling it with noise just to avoid discomfort. When you stop doing that, You're no longer wasting the moment, you're owning it. The next time the silence drops, resist the urge to rescue it. Lean back, breathe, let the stillness hang for a while. You might be surprised how quickly she comes back to you when she realizes you don't need to be pulled along by her every emotional current. If you've ever stayed steady in the quiet, drop this in the comments. I own the moment. And here's the interesting part. Once she knows silence won't rattle you, she might test you in a way that looks the opposite. Instead of taking the energy away, she'll flood you with it to see how you handle the heat when it's all directed at you. Scenario 7. The tease test. It starts with a smile that's just a little too knowing, a comment that's clearly meant to poke at you, or a playful jab about something you do. She might tease your taste in music, the way you dress, your morning routine, or even the way you order your coffee. On the surface, it's light-hearted, but underneath, it's another test one, designed to see if you can handle being challenged without losing your composure. For a lot of men, this catches them off guard. They either get defensive, firing back with a sharp tone, or they go too far the other way, laughing along but feeling a little cut down inside. Both reactions send the wrong signal. The tease test isn't about the words, it's about the frame. She's checking to see if you can play along without losing yourself, if you can stand your ground without making it a battle. Take Brian, 52, a real estate broker in Phoenix. He's been dating Melissa, 45, for a couple of weeks. They're out for brunch when Melissa smirks and says, "You strike me as the kind of guy who probably spends more time polishing his car than driving it." Brian doesn't frown or rush to deny it. He grins and says, "Only when I'm not polishing my boots." Then he changes the subject to a funny story about a road trip he took. He didn't give her the reaction she might have expected, and that's the point. He stayed in his own frame, kept it playful, and moved forward without letting the tease land as a hit. Now, imagine a different response. Same situation, same comment, but the guy's smile drops. He says, "That's not true at all," and starts explaining in detail how he actually drives his car plenty. It might seem like he's defending himself, but what she sees is someone who can be easily thrown off balance by a little jab. That's not strength, that's emotional fragility. The Stoics had a word for this kind of composure: equanimity. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with himself." In the context of the tease test, this means you're not rattled by light provocation because you're secure in who you are. You don't need to overcorrect, and you don't need to pretend the jab didn't happen. You simply meet it with calm, playful energy. Passing this test is about reading the intent. If the tease is playful, you keep it light. If it's pushing a little harder, you still stay composed, but make it clear that you don't take yourself too seriously. The key is to avoid overreacting in either direction. Too much defensiveness makes you look insecure. Too much self-deprecation makes you look like you don't value yourself. The middle ground, confident playfulness, is where attraction grows. It's also worth noting that the tease test often comes after you've passed other tests. By this point, she's already seen you hold your frame in more serious situations. Now she's curious if you can keep that same presence when the energy is more playful, and the man who can mix strength with humor leaves a lasting impression. So the next time a woman teases you, don't overthink it. Smile, maybe throw back a gentle jab if it feels natural, then steer the conversation somewhere fun. Show her that you can dance with the moment without stumbling. If you've ever passed a playful challenge without losing your balance, drop this in the comments. I play to win. And here's the thing, once she knows you can handle the tease, she might turn the game in a different direction. Not a joke, not a jab, but a subtle shift in how she shows interest, just enough to make you wonder if you're the one doing the chasing. Scenario 8. The waiting game. It's the text that doesn't get answered right away. The date you thought you'd set, but she suddenly needs to check her schedule. The call that goes to voicemail, even though you know she saw it. She's not ghosting you. She's not gone. She's making you wait. This is the waiting game, and whether she's doing it consciously or not, it's a test. She's watching to see how you handle the space between your action and her response. Do you start sending follow-up messages? Do you double text? Do you fill that silence with nervous energy, wondering what you did wrong? Or do you stay steady, keep living your life, and let her come back to you on her own time? For men who aren't grounded, the waiting game feels like torture. They replay the last conversation in their heads, searching for mistakes. They check their phone every 10 minutes, hoping for that little notification. And when they can't take it anymore, they break, sending the, "Hey, just checking in" text that instantly gives away the fact that they're hooked. Let's make this real. Tom is 54, owns a small contracting business in Ohio. He met Laura, 49, at a friend's barbecue. They've been on 2 dates, both good. After their second date, he texts her the next day to see if she wants to grab dinner that weekend. No reply. Hours pass. That evening, instead of panicking, Tom goes to the gym, makes himself a solid dinner, and spends the night reading. 2 days later, Laura texts back, "Sorry, been swamped. Dinner Friday." Tom passed the test without even realizing it. He didn't chase, didn't fill the gap with anxious energy, and didn't punish her for taking her time. He simply kept moving forward in his own life. That kind of calm confidence is magnetic because it shows he's not living in a holding pattern, waiting for someone else to decide his next move. Now imagine the opposite. Same setup, same lack of reply, but the guy sends another text after 3 hours, then another after 6. By the time she responds 2 days later, she's already lost a little respect because she's seen how quickly he loses his center when things aren't on his timeline. The Stoics had a phrase for this kind of patience: amor fati, love of fate. Epictetus reminded his students, do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens. The waiting game is the perfect modern test of that principle. You don't rush it, you don't force it, you accept the timing for what it is, and you use the space to keep building your own life. Passing the waiting game doesn't mean you never follow up. It means you understand the difference between calm persistence and needy chasing. When you respond on your own time, when you keep the frame of your life intact, you send a silent message. I'm interested, but I'm not dependent. There's also another subtle layer here. She's not just testing how patient you are. She's seeing if you'll compromise your standards for a faster response. Will you rearrange your schedule the second she's free? Will you be available at the drop of a hat? Or will you keep your commitments, showing her that your time is as valuable as hers? The next time you're faced with the waiting game, lean on that stoic calm. Send your message, then let it breathe. Fill the space with things that make you stronger, sharper, more alive. When she comes back, and she often will, you'll be the man who wasn't sitting still, waiting for the phone to light up. If you've ever stayed cool when she made you wait, drop this in the comments. I hold the line. And here's where it gets interesting. After patience comes pressure. The final test isn't about waiting at all, but about how you react when she pulls you into a push and pull rhythm that can keep a man off balance for weeks. Scenario 9. The push-pull move. One day she's warm, affectionate, and engaged, leaning in, texting back quickly, making plans. The next, she's cool, distant, and almost hard to reach. Then, just when you think she's losing interest, she's back again with that smile, that touch, that spark in her eyes. This is the push-pull move, and it's one of the most disorienting tests a man can face. It's not always calculated in a manipulative way. Sometimes it's instinctive. Human beings are wired to create tension and release in relationships, and women often use this rhythm, consciously or unconsciously, to see how a man handles unpredictability. Let's make it real. David is 56, a financial advisor in Denver. He's been seeing Rachel, 51, for about 2 months. One week, Rachel is all in texting good morning, making plans for the weekend. even talking about future trips. The next week, she takes hours to respond, cancels dinner, and seems distracted when they're together. A less grounded man would spiral. He'd start asking if she's upset, pressing for answers, trying to fix whatever's wrong. He might even double down with gifts or extra attention, hoping to win her back to the warm phase. But David doesn't bite. He keeps showing up as himself, steady, positive, and engaged when she's present, but fully living his own life when she pulls away. He doesn't punish her for being distant, and he doesn't reward her with extra effort just to get her attention back. The push-pull move works as a test because it exposes your dependency on emotional highs. If you can't handle the pullback without scrambling to close the gap, you're showing that her mood controls yours. But if you can stay centered through both phases, you're showing that you're the constant in the equation. Stoicism teaches that external events, and that includes someone else's emotional rhythm, are outside your control. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In the push-pull, your reaction is the entire point. She's learning whether you need her to be on all the time to feel secure, or if your confidence runs deeper than that. The truth is, the men who pass this test often find the rhythm changes. The more you refuse to be thrown off balance, the less the push-pull appears. Why? Because there's no payoff. If she can't get a reaction, she stops playing the game, and the connection naturally levels out. The key is not to match her distance with coldness, and not to match her warmth with over-the-top enthusiasm. You keep your responses genuine and consistent. When she's warm, enjoy it. When she's cool, give her space without withdrawing your respect or presence entirely. The push-pull move isn't meant to break you. It's meant to see if you're breakable. And when you prove you're not, the dynamic shifts in your favor. If you've ever stayed steady through mixed signals, drop this in the comments. I stay constant. And now that you've seen how these 9 scenarios work, it's time to connect the dots, because once you understand the pattern, you can stop reacting and start leading. Scenario 10. The secret test. This one doesn't show up in a conversation you can replay word for word. It's not a text you can point to, or a moment you can clearly label. The secret test is invisible because it's about how you live when you think she's not paying attention, and yet she is. It's in the small decisions. The way you treat the waiter when she steps away from the table. How you talk about people who can't do anything for you. Whether you follow through on something you said a week ago, even when she's not there to see it. She's watching, not with suspicion, but with curiosity. She's asking herself a silent question. Is he really the man he says he is?